Stop! Don't drink it! The girl's tiny voice echoed through the mansion. Everyone froze. A glass of juice, a hidden danger, and one brave warning. The woman's hand shook above the glass. The room was silent. The girl whispered urgently, "It's poisoned." Could anyone believe her? Could a small voice really save a life? The glass slowly lowered. Relief filled the girl's chest. But the danger was real. Moments later, the maid confirmed it. The juice had been poisoned. Shock rippled through the room. The billionaire smiled warmly at the girl. The woman's eyes filled with tears. One brave child had changed everything. Courage and honesty can come from the smallest voices, and sometimes they save lives. The mansion was quiet, the kind of quiet that made every footstep echo like a warning. A small girl ran through the polished marble halls, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never felt so nervous, so desperate, yet so determined. Ahead of her, at the grand dining table, a woman lifted a sparkling glass of juice to her lips, unaware of the danger it contained. "Stop, please, don't drink it," the girl shouted, her voice breaking slightly. Immediately, the room fell silent. Every eye turned toward the tiny figure who dared to speak in a place filled with wealth and authority. Even the staff, quietly observing from the corners, froze mid-motion, unsure what to do. The woman hesitated, her hand shaking ever so slightly above the glass. "Why not?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with curiosity and concern. The girl's chest heaved as she stepped closer. "It's poisoned," she whispered, urgency dripping from every word. "Someone put something dangerous in the juice." For a moment, no one breathed. The tension in the room was electric. Could such a small voice truly hold the power to change what was about to happen? The luxurious chandeliers above reflected the light like diamonds, but even their brilliance couldn't pierce the suspense gripping the room. From the far end, the billionaire stepped forward, his expression unreadable. He was a man used to control, used to power. Yet something about the girl's insistence made him pause. The audacity of a child daring to speak up, to challenge the ordinary flow of a day in a mansion like this, demanded attention. The girl explained what she had noticed: a faint smell in the juice, a subtle color that others might have ignored, and the way certain staff members had acted suspiciously. Her voice trembled but did not waver. Every word she spoke carried weight far beyond her small stature. The woman's hand finally lowered. Relief flooded the girl's chest, but the room remained suspended in silence, heart still pounding. The staff exchanged glances. The billionaire's gaze softened slightly, and everyone present realized something remarkable. Courage doesn't depend on size or age. In that instant, the girl had saved a life. Her bravery, awareness, and quick thinking created ripples that could change everything. Even in a world of wealth, status, and privilege, sometimes the smallest, quietest voice carries the most power. The room was thick with silence. Every heartbeat seemed amplified, echoing off the high ceilings and crystal chandeliers. The woman's hand still hovered over the glass of juice, her eyes wide with hesitation. She glanced at the girl, whose small frame trembled slightly, yet whose gaze was steady and unwavering. "She's just a child," whispered one of the staff members, uncertain. But even as doubt filled the air, everyone couldn't ignore the intensity in her voice. Her urgency carried a weight that demanded attention, a truth that could not be dismissed simply because of her age. The billionaire stood at the edge of the room, his arms folded, watching silently. A man used to control, to predicting outcomes, to relying on years of experience. Yet now confronted with a reality he had never expected. A child, a simple girl, might have insight none of them possessed. His eyes narrowed thoughtfully as he considered the girl's words. "She insists it's dangerous," someone muttered, but the girl didn't flinch. She took a careful breath and explained everything she had observed. The subtle change in color of the juice, a faint unusual smell, the tiny behaviors of staff members that suggested something was off. Every detail was precise, every observation clear and deliberate. The woman's fingers twitched above the glass, caught between disbelief and the growing realization that the child might be right. For the first time, she saw bravery, clarity, and wisdom manifest in someone so small, so seemingly powerless. The room held its breath, staff frozen in position, hearts racing with suspense. Time felt suspended. Seconds stretched like hours as everyone awaited the next move. The girl's courage had created an invisible force that held the room together, a delicate balance of fear, hope, and anticipation. Finally, the woman slowly pulled her hand away from the glass, eyes fixed on the small figure before her. The billionaire's gaze softened slightly, acknowledging the truth that sometimes insight and bravery come from unexpected places. Even in a world ruled by wealth and authority, observation and courage could outshine experience and power. Relief washed over the room, tension lifting ever so slightly, as everyone realized the girl's bravery had prevented a potential disaster. Wisdom and courage do not depend on age. Even the smallest voice, when honest and brave, can change the course of events. The mansion was still. The seconds stretched endlessly as every eye in the room watched her, the small girl whose courage had already stopped a catastrophe. The woman's hand hovered just above the glass of juice, trembling ever so slightly. Her mind raced, torn between disbelief and the urgent warning she had just received. Could she trust what she had been told? Could a simple child's words really outweigh the years of experience and sophistication surrounding her? The girl stood silently, her chest heaving, yet her gaze remained steady. She didn't speak now. Her warning had already been delivered. All that remained was the waiting, the uncertain, tense pause as everyone in the room held their breath. Staff members exchanged nervous glances, each silently hoping the right decision would be made. The room seemed to shrink, filled with anticipation, as sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished floors. Finally, the woman took a deep breath and slowly placed the glass down. Relief surged through the girl's tiny frame. She exhaled sharply, shoulders relaxing as the weight of the moment began to lift. The tension that had gripped the room for what felt like hours slowly dissipated. The staff let out quiet sighs, the atmosphere softening with the realization that disaster had been averted. The billionaire stepped forward, his expression calm but intense. He had observed every movement, every word, every reaction. "You did the right thing," he said quietly, his voice carrying through the room like a gentle reassurance. Gratitude radiated from him, unspoken yet deeply felt. The woman looked at the girl, her eyes filled with awe and emotion, silently acknowledging the courage it had taken to stand up when it mattered most. Even in a mansion filled with wealth, influence, and privilege, the lesson had been clear. Awareness, bravery, and honesty could triumph over status or experience. The girl had reminded everyone present that even the smallest voice could make a monumental difference. Her actions had created ripples of respect, hope, and admiration throughout the room. Suddenly, the quiet of the mansion shattered as the maid rushed in, her face pale and voice trembling. "It was poisoned. Someone tampered with it," she exclaimed, pointing toward the glass that had been set down moments ago. Shock rippled through the room, hearts pounding with the sudden realization of what could have happened. Every eye turned toward the small girl, who had stood silently, waiting for the moment of truth. She felt a mixture of fear and relief. Fear for what might have happened, relief that her warning had been enough. The woman who had almost taken the sip froze, tears welling in her eyes as she looked at the girl who had just saved her life. The billionaire stepped forward, a gentle smile softening his usually stern expression. He approached the girl and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You saved her life," he said quietly, his voice full of admiration and gratitude. The weight of the words seemed to echo through the grand hall, touching everyone in the room. The woman, overwhelmed with emotion, reached for the girl's hands. Her tears fell freely, streaming down her cheeks as gratitude and humility flooded her. She could hardly speak, but the intensity of her eyes said it all. "Thank you, and I will never forget this." Staff members, once silent and apprehensive, now exchanged looks of awe and admiration. The girl, who had seemed so small and powerless at the beginning, had become the hero of the day. Her courage, observation, and quick thinking had prevented a tragedy that no one else had noticed. For a moment, the mansion was quiet again, but this time the silence was different. It was filled with respect, relief, and a shared understanding of the girl's bravery. She had reminded everyone that power, wealth, and authority could never replace awareness, courage, and integrity.